What's up, everybody?
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Welcome back to the 6th episode that we're doing on financial freedom. And we're excited because this is actually the last one. We're getting to the goods.
Grand finale.
So as far as tonight, we will be going at this for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so, and then we'll take some questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in. And then if you are not a subscriber, you do need to be a subscriber in order to comment and type in these questions. So make sure you hit that, subscribe to the channel. Anything else we want to hit?
That was it. That was supposed to be my line.
I know, but you didn't do it.
He totally stole my line.
I
Wow.
was just waiting. You see that like awkward pause? We're just like, is she going to say it? All right, fantastic. Well, let's get rolling. So we have been doing this episode for the last 5 weeks in a row, building towards how do we achieve financial freedom. And we've really been sharing the story and path that Laura and I have been on, like many other people for a long time, going through something that we did not invent, right? There is a proven path and a model to this. And Laura and I got to financial freedom, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And I would say that really what it is that every single day we wake up and we choose, do we want to work or not? And we've really made that decision because we started new businesses and things. But we have that option, that freedom to say, hey, you know what? We don't want to work anymore. And it's simply because we have passive income that exceeds our expenses, right? So that's really what I'm trying to show you over these last 6 weeks is how do you get a system and a process where you can have income that comes in every single month that you're not trading your time for any longer, right? When you start out and you get going in life, you work and you get a paycheck, right? And you get paid per hour or per, unit of time. And that's totally fine. That's how pretty much all of us start. But the ones who are more sophisticated that realize that they are in this rat race, and if they don't make a change, if they don't get out of it, they're going to be stuck just like everyone else, working all the way, pretty much to the day they die. Some people are, can get their stuff together and have some type of retirement or pension, Social Security, man, but there's not a lot of opportunity there, right? We see that stuff getting squeezed, and people of my generation and younger don't realistically anticipate you should count on the government or Social Security or anything like that. So we got to a place through buying properties, and we'll talk about that tonight, how we bought our first property and subsequently other ones after that, but ultimately use that to snowball our path. And honestly, we started very, very poor and broke, and we were waiting tables and, working multiple jobs. And so I come from that place of pain and struggle, and, I was not given anything. There was no handout. There was no upper leg. Man, we
golden
worked
spoon.
multiple jobs, paying our way through college when we got married. And so if you're in a hard spot right now, we've been there. I understand it. I know it sucks. We put in a lot of time and a lot of work, but it's so much better to do that time, that hard work while you're younger, while you're healthy, as opposed to having to have the hard times when you're older, when you're 75, 85 years old, and you coasted through life, or maybe you worked hard, but you worked hard without a plan. I want to show you how to work hard with a plan, and it only takes 10 years, right? Execute this plan consistently for 10 years, and then you have 40, 50, 60 years after that to coast and to have that freedom of choice, right? Do you travel? Do you spend time with your family? Do you work for free? Do you do a job that you totally wouldn't do because it doesn't pay enough, but you love it, and now you're able to pursue those kind of things? And again, that allows us to do businesses that we really love and honestly, like, that are really difficult. And we've been through multiple businesses where we didn't make any money for several years, and it was totally fine because we had other income from other sources. So it gives you that freedom of opportunity. And that's really what I want to share tonight, of the practical steps that we took.
I always say discipline is freedom. And I think that is something that we really had to learn was that discipline is a integral part in financial freedom. And I know we've talked about this in the past calls, but being disciplined in your finances is not an easy thing. I think we're taught in our culture and our society that the minute you get your paycheck, the minute you get all that money coming in, it needs to be spent on something that makes you quote unquote happy. And so, we really had the discipline in the beginning to realize the pain that we were in and realize we didn't want to be in that pain anymore. And so having the discipline to have that savings account, to not spend this money, to, in essence, like go broke each month, is what we did. We just put all this money aside and kind of pretended that it wasn't there, and just had a specific budget each month and didn't go out of that budget. And I'm here to tell you it sucks. Like, I'm not going to tell you here that it's like, oh, it's so fun saving money and having a budget and not spending fun things on yourself. Like, it's not fun. But looking back on it now, from where we're at, it's 100% worth it. And the suck that you go through is worth it. Because what Brett said, it's taken us about a decade to get there. And in the grand scheme of things, like, a decade goes by very quickly. And so, I'm not 40 yet. I'm almost 40. So I can't say we're in our 40s because he's in his 40s, but I'm not yet. And so being, in your 40s and being able to say that, I think is an amazing thing. And anybody can do it. Like Brett said, we started with nothing. We were waiting tables. We were servers, and I had 3 jobs, and literally from day to night was just working, because that's what I thought you had to do. I thought you had to trade time for money. And so we just had a misunderstanding about finances and financial freedom. And so our hopes is to share our story, to share what we've learned, and to really just catapult y'all in your financial freedom journey.
So where we're at tonight's the good stuff, right? The fun stuff that it actually takes a good amount of time to get there. So if you're just jumping in and you're hearing this episode without the first 5, then go back and watch those, because that's the actual strategy, the step by step, getting to the place now where you buy your first asset. And an asset, in my opinion, is just simply something that puts money in your pocket every single month, versus a liability. Liability is something that takes money out of your pocket every month. So we want to buy assets. And I want to talk to you about how to buy your first asset. And I would say that buying your first house, or there's a term called house hacking, right? That's what we did first. And really what that looks like is we went, and we were young and we were still in college, and we barely made any money. We were waiting tables, but we were executing a plan. We were saving money, and we bought our first property, and we actually lived in that property. And that's what you call house hacking, right? You buy a house, you actually go and live in it. It's your primary residence. You go get a local loan with a bank that says, hey, I'm actually going to have this as my primary residence. So we did that, and we bought this house in 2011. Mm-hmm. So actually, here, let me pull it up. I want to show you this house. We bought this house. It is in Orange, California. And we bought this house right here at 1,700 square feet. We bought it for $350,000. And it did not look like this. It was actually a fixer. But we did all this work. This is our backyard, and we put so much time and energy. Not a lot of money, because it was literally blood, sweat, and tears. We had a budget of $500 a month in material cost, and we did all of the work, right? And like, we put in these vanities. We tiled these showers. Let me show you. This was our master shower. We actually tiled this shower ourselves, and we didn't know it. We've never tiled a shower before. We literally would mess it up and then chip out that tile and then redo it. And we did it over and over. We just spent all this quality time together building out this house. And you can see now that this property, it is now worth over $1 million, almost $1.1 million, right? So it's kind of crazy that 2 kids in college were able to scrape together some waiting table tips money, buy their first house, and then fix it up a little bit at a time. So we owned this house for about 3 years, and then we sold it for $525.
Mm-hmm. $575, something like that. Yeah,
something to that effect. Mm-hmm. When we closed everything, we got a check for $175,000, and we thought we were rich. No joke. We thought it was so much money. I remember saying to Laura, we are gobbiniers, because I didn't even know what word to use. I was like, that's just gobs of money. Oh my gosh. Like, we were just, whoa. And so this is something that really anyone can do. And I want to encourage you that house hacking is something that is an investment. While you're living in it, it may technically be a liability and not an asset. But I want to define that, because we were able to use this as our snowball. We were able to get going with this and really have this opportunity to get us rolling. Because here's the important part, is we did not live in this house overdo it and make it, some dream home for us, right? We did not add the pool and do all of that kind of stuff. We bought a fixer-upper and we did the work ourselves. And we got to a place where, as the market was appreciating, we decided, hey, we're going to sell this house and we're going to use that money not to what most people do, go and buy the next house that they're going to live in the better neighborhood and, really enjoy their dream home. No, we did not do that, right? That's what I would consider the middle class trap. This idea that you build equity in a house and then you use that to buy your next house, and you build equity and you use that to buy your dream house. No, this was not our personal investment, right? Like, that's what you do for yourself on a personal. We use this opportunity to take care of our future self. This was the opportunity that we used to start that snowball. And here's kind of the distinction and how this kind of keys off with our story is we sold this property, took that $175,000, and the first thing that we did, well, we rented a house, right? We did not buy another house. We rented a house, and then the first thing we did is we paid somebody to teach us. We paid for coaching. We paid somebody to teach us how to buy discounted properties and how to flip. And so we used that money and really that time. We had now this opportunity where we sold that house and we both quit our jobs. And we had just had our second daughter, just had our second daughter. And it was like, you know what, babe, we got, 6 months, 12 months, right? Like, we have this much time to make this work, start this new business, learn house flipping. We have this much money. We can get hard money. We can start doing loans. We can start buying properties. And we use this opportunity and this house hacking opportunity to get really our business started. And so because of that, we did not buy our own next house until this house that you see us in right now. For what, like 8 years?
8 years. Yeah, we rented.
We were doing very well. And we still rented a house for the next 8 years. We rented multiple houses in California. And then we moved to Texas. We rented a house. And you know what, man, that was really the sacrifice. And I want to stress that part of it because this is the real practical part of this. You can do this activity and do house hacking and buy something and grow equity and then go and sell it and then just buy something again for yourself. That's not house hacking, right? What we're talking about here is starting the investment cycle. We use this in order to continue to snowball and invest. And so we use that capital and we bought a lot of houses. We bought a whole bunch of rental properties with that money. We started our business, right? That's something that really allowed us to have that freedom of time that we wanted running our own companies, but also we use that to fix and flip. And then we use that to buy a bunch of rental properties. And honestly, that was the real thing here. That's how we got to financial freedom the first time is we hit, more than $10,000 of monthly cash flow coming off the rental properties that we started while we were renting our own house. I want to stress how important that is. We were renting, right? And we had this kind of average looking house with what color were those walls?
Like taupe.
Oh my gosh.
Beige, or I don't know.
The walls were the same color as the ceilings, and you had these builder grade appliances. And the shower, we had the shittiest shower, man, for years. And it was so horrible. And that's what it was. I just want to tell you that we had all this money in the bank and we still continue to sacrifice because we did not want to stop the snowball. I want to stress how important it is. You got to get your first deal, even if it's tiny, just to get that snowball started. And then you just let it roll. So this is an option for people. I think it's super realistic. We bought this house with FHA financing, and you really just need 3.5% down. So it was less than 10 grand that we scrimped and put together. We might have even got some money from our parents. Did we or no?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay. We were waiting tables. We got our tax return back. We're
Yeah, I think that's what it
we're getting
was.
close, right? All right. And again, we made no money back then. But I want to tell you that if you're in that situation, you're just starting out, you haven't gotten all of your financial ducks in a row, this is something you can do. We did not have the most amazing credit. If you just Google, FHA, right, you only have to put 3.5% down. And then you look at the minimum credit score, just you and your partner, you and your spouse. What does it look like, right? Start talking to lenders now. Get your ducks in a row. It can only take a couple months. You can get all of your ducks in a row. And there's a bunch of different programs out there to help you with these kind of things.
So I think that we're having a little bit of issues with the internet. Sounds like you guys are having, that's kind of getting choppy. So I'm going to have Brett change. We in Georgetown, where we live.
In order to get the loan, And so that in order to get the loan. And so that's one option, right? You could buy a single family house that you can live in. The second option is you can go and buy 2 to 4 units with the same type of FHA loan. You could go to, the next city over. There's usually some areas that may be a little bit more affordable, and you go buy a duplex. You can buy a triplex, you can buy a quad, 4 units, right? You can literally do that, and you can live in one of those. Let's just say you found a 4-unit apartment building. You can live in one of those apartments, and you can rent out the other 3. And the key thing is here, when you are counting the rents from those other 3 buildings, those other 3 doors, you can count that towards your income, right? So if you were not going to qualify for a big 4-unit building, now when you include the rents of those other 3 doors to your income, now you may be able to qualify for it. And so talk to your bank about that, because sometimes they'll let you count 100%, sometimes it's like 50% or something to that effect. But it allows you to do a bigger deal. You can now buy a bigger piece of property, and you just live in one out of the 4. Right now, again, technically you can do it with FHA. The rule states you just have to live in it for at least 1 year. So will we sacrifice, right? We would sacrifice. We moved to an area where there wasn't great schools. We were having our kids, and we knew that we couldn't stay in this part of town for more than 5 years, right? Because we couldn't put our kids in school there because they're bad schools. So, okay, I remember Laura showing our parents our house the first time we bought it.
Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. I did not want to show them our house because it was so bad. It was in a really bad part of town, and the house was a dump. Like, it was bad. And we bought it because we wanted to fix it up. And that was all we could afford. And I literally remember thinking, like, I don't want parents to come over. Like, I'm super embarrassed. And of course they came over and they were super happy for us. But I was just like, oh my gosh, this house is so bad.
Yep. But I want you to know that you just need to make the sacrifice, right? You can use this house hacking idea, go buy a single family, go buy multifamily, move into one of them, even if it's 45 minutes away, even if it's in an area where it's like, I don't know if I would want to live there. If you'd have a rental there, then just consider this your first rental, right? You're going to live in one of them for a year, and then you're able to sell and move on, or you can live in it and then you can move out, right? You just need to live there for 1 year, then move out of it, go rent something else. That's, essentially what we did. Bought our first property and then went and rented. And you just got to get that snowball started. And honestly, if I would have known, if someone would have told me this, I would have looked for a 4-plex instead of buying a single family. I would tell everybody right now, go find a 4-plex, even if it's a little bit far because they're too expensive in the immediate area you live. Go move somewhere else. It's just a year, right? You say you live there, do what you got to do, but buy it, because that's going to be your first investment. A 4-unit property, that's a huge deal. If you can get it and you're only putting 3.5% down, that's no big deal. So as we're looking at real estate properties, right, I want to give you some kind of ideas here. You buy your first house, you're looking at house hacking, you're looking at buying, your little apartment building, a 4-unit, something like that. As you are expanding into this game, and I do want to call it a game because there is rules to it. I want to teach you some of the principles and the rules to it. You're buying for cash flow. That's a really important thing to consider. What cash flow means is that you have rents that come in every single month, and then you have expenses, right? You have your mortgage and your taxes and your insurance, and you have your property manager, and then there's gonna be maintenance. There's gonna be vacancy. Whatever you think is gonna be happening, it's gonna be worse, right? There's gonna be more expenses than you think. So at the end of the month, you are going to have your top line income, your rents, minus all your expenses. Whatever is left, that's your cash flow. You want to buy something that has cash flow. The more cash flow, the better. Cash flow is passive income, right? Get that first one going where you get the $300 a month, right? That's cash flow. That is, 1/20th or 1/50th of your, financial freedom, right? Just get more of those. And the longer it goes, the faster it gets. Because the first property we bought for a rental, we were probably making less than $300 a month in cash flow. And honestly, when you look at it like that and you're just like, I just have one, like, it's discouraging. And it's like, why am I doing this little deal? It's just so much work, and I'm getting all these calls, and then there's all these issues and stuff's breaking. That's just part of the game, right? You got to get past the awkward small stage. You just got to keep growing, but you cannot keep growing. You can't get past that if you don't start your snowball. So I want to encourage you, even when it seems stupid and it's like, it's just one little deal. everybody starts with one little deal. We started with one little deal, and then we added more and then more. And all of a sudden it was like a year or two later and we were making like $3,500 a month in cash flow. And then we looked at ourselves like, that's cool, right? Like, you know, when we can't really live on $3,500, but at least we could have like a good emergency on that much money, right? And then what happened was just inflation, and the market increased, and all of these kind of things happened. And all of a sudden we bought a couple more, and then it was like, man, we're at like $10,000 a month now. And it was a snowball picking up. There was multiple things that were happening. We were gaining confidence. We were knowing the game. We were able to identify better properties in order to take down. We had more experience. We had more capital that was spitting off. And we were just putting this in the sacred account. So it's not like every single month, if you're saving, you're just saving that and investing. All of the money that is your cash flow, it goes into your sacred account. And so that's piling up. And that's compounding, and that's snowballing, right? The longer you go, the faster and faster and faster that bank account fills again. And it's like all of a sudden now it's like, hey, it's just a few months again. And now you got 50 grand in there. And it's like, wow, it took me like 5 years to save 50 grand. And now I'm getting it every 6 months, right? It can build like that. And then you start picking up more and more properties. And then you start really learning the game and getting better at it. And you start selling the crappy little ones you don't really like that have a lot of drama and just buying into bigger deals. And you start getting into smaller multi-unit deals and then bigger multi-unit deals. And you start investing in other things. But I want to say that in order for you to get to those cool big investments, that you always start with the crappy little one. Everyone starts there, right? Start small. It is okay to start small. You just need to start. And in order to start, you have to go through the process and you have to work the system. And you got to get on the same page with your spouse and you got to save your money, pay off the bad debt, and then learn this niche. So you are free to learn whatever kind of niche you want, right? Laura and I are here to tell you that we learned the single family rental game, that we learned wholesaling and flipping. We actually bought a mobile home. That was one of our maybe third investment.
We ended up buying what, three?
We bought three, yeah. But the first one we bought for $3,000. And again, that's just another thing that you could learn. We bought this property for $3,000 cash. It was a mobile home. It was technically personal property in a park, so they were leasing the space. And then we fixed it up. We put another like 3 or 4 grand into it. We barely did anything. And then we sold it on payments. I think we sold this thing for like $60,000, but we didn't get $60,000 cash. We got $500 a month for however many years that was in order to get there, right? So we did that a few times. There's all sorts of different things you can learn. You don't have to have 50 grand or 100 grand in order to do your first deal, right? A few $1,000s is really all you need in order to get that snowball started. And I want to stress that the most important thing is time. It's just starting early, right? Compounding and giving yourselves decades. You give yourself decades and man, you will win, right? If this is not get rich quick, this is slow and steady, and I'm going to get rich for sure. And again, I say that word rich because it's attention getting, but this is talking about really getting wealthy, right? Replacing our income, getting to the place where we have freedom of choice. We can decide, hey, you know what? Screw you, boss. I'm done with this kind of stuff. I'm gonna spend time with my family. I don't have to be here anymore, right? Everyone wants that position. Especially when you're working for the man, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this stuff, right? If you have that freedom, man, it's so awesome. Honestly, like we have multiple businesses and we work around the clock. But knowing that if one of our girls got sick, we could just stop. We could totally chill. We could put things in place and be like, all right, we are focusing on our family. We're focusing on what's important, and we have that option because of the finances.
Mm-hmm. I had something I want to say, and then I got distracted. Oh my gosh, dang it! You know when you have that thought, and then like you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna say, and then it totally just escaped me.
It's gone, huh?
So poof. I think what I thought I had was. I think in the beginning, you just have a lot of fear because it's unknown, right? And I think that we didn't know if this was going to work out for us. Some of these properties that we bought were like, is this a good deal? Like, I don't really know. Like, we had never gotten into before. This is all new territory for us. And so I think what Brett was saying, like getting the confidence, building your confidence in what you're doing. And I think that's the only way to build that is to do it, right? It's like if you're scared of public speaking, you're not going to get better at it sitting on the sidelines, not public speaking, or just like public speaking in the mirror. That's not going to help you. You actually have to do the thing that you're scared of. And so I think that that's something that we learned along the way is that we were a little unsure of ourselves and we didn't know, right? But we stepped into that fear and we took courage no matter because we knew that this was something that we wanted for our financial future. And so, with that being said, I wanted to actually ask you a question. This is not a question on the questions, but
Okay. What do you got?
I know that a lot of people always say, "Oh, well, I want to buy a house because it's going to be my retirement." You hear that said all the time. And so I guess I would just want to clarify for people who are listening, like, is that really the case? Is that something that they should think of, like, oh, I'm going to buy one house and it's going to be my retirement plan?
Well, I'll give you the perspective of someone who owns an assisted living and people who our customers are 90 years old, right? A lot of times that money that they use to pay us is that house, that property that they have. And it was not something that was a retirement play for them. They didn't get to retire because of this. They got to afford end of life because of this. And so I would definitely say you definitely want to collect real estate along your life. Whatever you get into, it will be there. It will long-term appreciate. You can hand it off to your kids. You can give it to them when they are the power of attorney on your memory care bed, right? Because it gets super, super expensive. It can literally cost $500,000 to $1 million in order to die when you have dementia because it's slow and horrible. But is it a retirement? No, it's not. And I think that a house that you live in, right, like the house that we live in right now, this costs us money every month. We keep fixing this thing up. It is a liability. It is not an asset. It becomes an asset the day we sell it, right? And we have that income that comes in. But otherwise, most of the time, you're just doing things that you want to do for your personal now self, right? You're putting these, little touches on it now, and then you're going to remodel again in 7 years, right? That's for your now. It's not for your future self. Your investments is where I want you to focus on. Totally fine, buy a house, but just make sure that you are putting the appropriate time and attention, and it's part of your plan towards how I'm buying these assets for my future self. Again, we used it to get started, but then we took it off the table. It was not for our personal selves. It was for our future self. And then we sacrificed because of it. And honestly, then we bought this house that we're living in now, and we fixed it up and we made it just the way we wanted. And that's totally fine because we still have our investments over here. It hasn't affected our plan. And if it needs to become part of your plan, then you need to stick to your plan. And if it's, again, you get past that point, then great, and celebrate it, have the big, beautiful house. It's all good.
Yeah, I think that's where people get stuck in their minds is like, okay, well, I feel like I own my house and it's an asset because it's real estate and I own it. And I think that there's a misunderstanding of what the liability versus asset really is. And so I think that people are thinking that they're buying these homes and they have this asset that's going to just set them for life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a misunderstanding in our culture today. And so that's why I wanted to point it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, to kind of wrap this thing up for everybody here, Laura and I have done this again for multiple years, teaching this step by step, our path that we've gone through. Again, this is a lot of things that are in books that other people teach. It's not something that is unique to us, but we've done this for years because we want to share to the people we started with, really our team and our employees, and really showing that a normal person who may be hourly wage, who may be entry level position, can take these steps and have a plan and sacrifice a dozen years or 10 years or 8 years and get to a place where they can choose whether they want to work. And so we do all this not to sell a course or anything like that, just to share and inspire you and show from our own story. Like, man, we started with nothing and knew nothing. And you know what? We fumbled through it and figured it out. At least now here's the 6-step plan, right? You can go through this and do it on your own and get together with your spouse and say, hey, babe, here's our goals. Here's what we're going to hit. Here's our action plan from it. And let's commit to do this. So that's really my encouragement and my hope and my prayer is that this inspires some of you to have that conversation, to execute a plan, and just know that it's worth it. It's hard, but it's worth it.
It's the choose your hard. I always say it. It's, you're going to choose it now or you're going to choose it later. And I think we've seen many people choosing their hard later in life. And I think that that's actually the harder option, choosing your hard later. I would rather do the hard stuff now while we're young and have a ton of energy versus choosing hard when you're a little bit older or not so much energy. Everything in life is hard. It's not supposed to be easy. I think that people think that there's like this overnight success pill that you take and you're going to be like a famous YouTube star like Mr. Beast and you're going to make gobs of millions of dollars. I mean, yes, that happens for some people, but he works hard. If you've actually looked into Mr. Beast, like he works all the time. I'm sure most people wouldn't want his life. And so it's not supposed to be easy. And I think that that's maybe the misconception that a lot of people have, that this is just going to be like an overnight success type of thing. I mean, it took us a decade, took us 10 years. And granted, that may seem long to you, but like looking back on it, like, oh my gosh, went by really fast. You know, a decade goes by very fast. And so choosing your hard now, I think that is the best option for you, because I'm sure everyone listening to this is under the age of 65. Even if you're 65, you still can start this now. Just start. Just do something. Don't just sit there and think that it's just going to knock on your door and come right at you. It's not.
Awesome.
Yeah, but we do have a couple questions that I wanted to go over. One of them is, do you think Airbnb is a viable option for reliable passive income?
It is definitely a viable option. Is it passive? It can be, it can not be. I think that's totally up to you on how you want to run that. And if that's something you want to get into and learn the niche, I know a lot of people in that game, and I know a lot of people who make good, no, I shouldn't say that. I know a few people that make really good money, and I know a lot more people who really don't make very much money in it. So yeah, by all means, dive into it. And I guess don't be afraid to transition and pivot and say, hey, you know what? This just wasn't for me. And don't get into a deal where you can lose money. What I always look at is my worst case scenario, I still make a little bit of money. So coming in from that perspective, I either win big or I win a tiny bit, but I never set myself up where I can lose money on a deal. And if you decide to get into Airbnb, by all means, it can be very lucrative, but it can also be a lot of time that goes into that.
Mm-hmm. And then one more question. I think it was regarding our when we purchased our first home in Orange. Did you get a commercial loan or personal loan? And did you need a business plan to get that loan?
No, that house, we bought that FHA. And so we put 3.5% down. It was a personal loan. It was just Laura and myself. There was no business or anything attached to it. So FHA, not SBA, if maybe that's what you were thinking. But yeah, pretty much everyone can get an FHA loan, right? Like they are meant for first-time home buyers. They're meant for people who need a leg up, and the government is there to help you in that. Same with VA. If you are a veteran, always use a VA loan. It's like 0% down, just a few little bit of fees. But yeah, you buy a house and do all that kind of stuff. Leverage the systems that are out there. And again, like we didn't get into all of that kind of stuff today because honestly, a lot of that changes. There are conventional loans that you can get 5% down, conventional financing and other things like that. But it is a moving target. There's always something that's changing and I don't keep up with it. So again, ask some lenders, get on different blogs and podcasts and find out, hey, how do I get my ducks in a row? How can I get my funding? Talk to multiple lenders, right? Have them, do soft pull, submit your stuff, and see how you can get, some type of deal for yourself together.
And you can only have one FHA loan at a time.
Yep.
So this is why we recommend you to get a fourplex, because you can get a fourplex under an FHA loan, correct?
Yep.
So I think that's the route we would have taken if someone would have told us that. Instead of purchasing a single family home, we would have done the fourplex. We would have lived in one, rented 3 out for the first year, and then probably would have moved out from there. But this is why we're telling you this now, so that you can take that advice and go for that. Because again, you can only have one FHA loan at a time. And so if you can only have one, you might as well utilize it for 3 income producing properties versus just one.
Absolutely.
All right, last question. I sat down with my partner to review our expenses to budget and save 20% of income. What is your advice on lowering expenses that seem like necessities, such as monthly rent, food, personal car, etc.?
Things that seem like necessities. Well, if you've already cut the fluff and the crap and it's painful, I personally don't want to make it too painful because I want to enjoy my life, but I also want to inspire myself to focus on the offensive side. And I think honestly that might be my answer to you is, cut down a decent amount, right? But don't make it so like you can't afford anything. I think it's just better to focus that energy on how do I double my income? How do I get this side hustle? How do I do more things? there's so much more potential opportunity to create more money than it is to keep cutting things down. Making money is fun, and you can do that forever, right? You get better and better, and it's more exciting. You provide more value to the marketplace. Budgeting forever is horrible, right? Like, I want this for a season. And you know what? I'm willing to sacrifice and do this hard times, but not forever. That sounds horrible, right? Like, the whole point is to, just be able to buy anything you want within reason, right? And so I would say it's way more fun and way more practical for the long term to, I would say, put 75 or 85% of your attention on income and, 15 or 25% of your attention on budgeting.
I think that's where some people get it wrong. I think most people focus on cutting, and then saving that portion of what they're saving from cutting, but they're not focused on just increasing their income. Because I think people don't think that way. A lot of people are like, what do you mean increase your income? Like, I can only have one job and I don't have any way of climbing the corporate ladder. Like, I'm already hit the ceiling where I'm at. Like, I can't make any more money. Wrong. You can make more money. There is so much potential anywhere you are to make money. I mean, you could sell things in your house and you can make extra money. I mean, there's so many things you can do, not just in your current workplace, but as side gigs. And so, I think that exactly what Brett's saying. I mean, there's only so much beans and rice you can eat daily from cutting your food costs. We didn't go out and eat, but we made a lot of nice meals at home. We cooked at home. And so if you don't know how to cook, well, just learn. Honestly, pull on a YouTube cooking channel. I mean, you can learn anything on YouTube. So I feel like there shouldn't be an excuse for this. I feel like a lot of people just like to pull excuses out for why they can't make money or why they can't increase their income. And that's just part of my language, a bunch of bullshit. Like, stop believing those lies you're telling yourself. You can make more income. You are a valuable asset to this world, and you have skills and abilities that not many people do. And so utilize that and capitalize on that.
When I was waiting tables, there was a busser at the restaurant I used to work at, and he worked lunch shift and dinner shift. And then on Saturday mornings, he went around and he did garage selling and stuff during the week, or bought stuff on Craigslist or whatever. And then he would go on Saturdays and have this little like flea market thing, and he would make $1,000 a day or more, I think, every single Saturday. And so he was making, busser money, and this was many years ago, so it wasn't a lot back then, right? He was making, $60 a day or something like that. And then he was literally like making so much more income from his little side gig of going around collecting stuff and then selling it at a higher price at a flea market. There is so much opportunity to do something, right? Like Gary Vee started out garage selling and doing all that kind of stuff. You can do anything you can think of. And honestly, like, ask ChatGPT, like, how do I make more money this weekend, right? Like, there's just so much options.
I think it's putting aside your pride. I think that's really what it is, because I think a lot of us are so prideful to admit, like, I can't sell my stuff, or I can't go garage selling, or I don't want to tell my friends and my family that I'm doing that as a side gig. Who cares what they think? Like, you are making more income for yourself. It doesn't matter. I think 10 years down the road, when you're financially free, like, what are you going to think then? And who cares what they think then at that point, right? So I think it's putting aside your pride. I really do think that's what it is. We're a lot of us are too prideful to just get that side gig, or even asking for a raise. Have you guys ever done that? If you actually work for somebody else, have you asked for a raise before? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Like, ask for a raise. What's he gonna say? The worst they could say is no.
You're fired.
Or you're fired. I guess that is the worst thing they could say.
Yeah. That'd be good. I'm gonna use that next time.
But yes, I think that there's so much potential to increase your income. So don't think that you cannot increase your income.
Yeah.
That's all, folks.
All right. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, if you've been with us for the last 6 weeks, I appreciate you doing this with us. Again, this is something that we have done once a year, and so it's not going to be back for a while. Keep your eye out next year, see if we do it again.
And if you want to check out some things that we do on the side, we have a couple podcasts. Again, we don't sell anything on there. This is just for your entertainment knowledge. We have a podcast that we do together called The Donkey and the Bee. We talk about marriage, entrepreneurship, and finances. And we actually talk about finances, I think, the most on that. So if you're interested in topics we've talked about based on finances, check that out. It's called The Donkey and the Bee. And then Brett also has a podcast called Assisted Living Investing, and that's just talking about all things assisted living investing, huh?
Right.
Huh? There you go.
If you want to get into the assisted living game, man, that's where the future of investing is. There is so much opportunity there, and you can make a ton of money in this space. So go right there. I share it all, and you can learn all the basics.
And with that, we will see you on the next time we do this.
Bye, everybody. Have a great one.
Have a good night.